and welcome to this presentation for Dr. Malcolm Glover's HRDV 5560 Group Development and Change course. My name is Mary Ann Irwin. I'm the subject librarian for the Business and Management departments of the Walker School of Business. I'm located on the home campus in St. Louis, but I serve students, faculty, and staff no matter where you are geographically in the world of Webster. During this presentation, we'll start with a PowerPoint slideshow that I'm showing you now, and we're going to look at how to find scholarly articles on an HRDV topic, and we'll also see how to get help from your librarians. As a matter of fact, that's so important, let's talk about that first. From the library homepage at library.webster.edu, there's a large blue button that says Contact a Librarian. If we click it, you'll go to this page. On the left, you may see all the ways that there are to contact librarians here in St. Louis. You can call or email Webster University librarians during the day, evenings, and weekends. Our desk is open almost 100 hours per week during the semester. At the bottom left of this page, notice our chat box. Chat is also staffed by professional librarians, but it's staffed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, except for federal holidays. You may also see this same chat box embedded within library databases and the library catalog. On the right of this page, we feature a searchable database of frequently asked questions. For example, how do I find my ID number? And how do I find an academic or scholarly article? Also, near the bottom of this page, or of this screenshot, you'll see how do I find a specific periodical like Harvard Business Review. The steps in that answer to that question may help you to find the full text of articles that are cited in your textbook or in the reference list, or of a good journal article on your topic. Another way to get help is from our research guides pages. Research guides bring together in one place different kinds of resources, databases, and search tips for programs, majors, or even individual classes. They offer ideas about how to get started with research. From the library homepage, let's click the blue Research Guides button. There is a research guide for most academic departments and programs. Under the Business and Technology category, we'll select the link to the Human Resources Development Research Guide. And here's the research guide. Here's that research guide. And you'll notice along the menu on the left that there are different pages. So I've just captured the articles page because I want to talk to you about types of periodicals and the articles that appear in them. So journals are often called scholarly or academic and are written by practitioners, theorists, and educators in a field of study. They often report experimental and or theoretical research. The author's peers may review an article before publication, which is why journals are often called peer-reviewed publications. Trade publications are written by and for specialists in an industry or business activity. Trade publications like Chief Learning Officer or HR Magazine often report trends or offer practical applications or tips for those in the field. And then hopefully we're all familiar with popular magazines and newspapers. They are written by staff, writers, and report current events and news for general business, and other readers. If you are in doubt about what kinds of periodicals your instructor expects you to use in your assignment, always read the assignment directions carefully or ask your professor. Near the bottom of the articles page on the HRDV research guide, you may find a list of databases that you may use to find articles. Business Source Complete is our largest article database, so it's generally where I suggest people start. On this page, you may also link to a brief how-to tip sheet to remind you of some of the search tricks we're going to cover in the rest of this video. And on the left menu, you'll see contact information for our research desk if you have a quick question, and my contact information if you would like to schedule an appointment to talk with me in depth about your research. Before we go live into the Business Source Complete database to demonstrate how to search for articles on a topic, let's talk about how to form a research question. Often, when you're just starting research, you might have a broad topic in mind. Mr. Glover's assignment asks you to identify an issue pertinent to the productivity of diverse teams or to explore modern ways of organizing and managing personnel. As an example, if your organization is talking about restructuring employees, you might wish to study what to do when team members are highly resistant to change. Asking a question or two, and your research question may change as you start searching, but asking a question may help you to focus your thinking. Your research question, or our research question, may look like this. What should a leader do when team members exhibit a high resistance to change? Next, from your research question, select 2 or 3 keywords or phrases that you would expect to find in articles about your topic. We're going to start with teams and resistance to change, and we may think about adding or doing a different search later, but we're going to start with those 2 most efficient keywords. Okay, now we're ready for a live demonstration, so excuse me one moment while I share my monitor with you. And here we are. So in addition to the research guides on your topic, I'm going to show you another way online in this live demonstration for how to find journal articles. And we're going to start at the library homepage. Remember, it's at library.webster.edu. So from the library homepage, here's that Contact a Librarian button, and here's the Research Guides button. But we're going to click on the Articles and Databases button. If you know the name of the database you want, you can choose it from this, you can select it from this menu under Know the Database You Want. But we also have the databases grouped by broad topical area. So under the Business and Technology category, we have just one category for human resources development and management. So we're going to click there. So we found 10 databases that have significant content for human resources. So you'll notice we see Business Source Complete here. You can also focus by limiting to particular types of information. So under all database types, I'm going to choose articles. And now there's just 5 article databases that pop up. But Business Source Complete is still here, and it's still listed as a best bet because it is our largest business and management database. So we're going to click on Business Source Complete, It's going to ask you to log in using your last name and your Webster 7-digit ID number. If you need help finding your Webster 7-digit ID number, notice this link to about in the middle of the box. And if you follow that, it'll tell you how to go into your Connections account and find your ID number if you don't already know it. So we click Login. Like most of our article databases, Business Source Complete opens to a screen with 3 search boxes. And what we do now is, remember, we've circled our items, our keywords that we would expect to find in our articles before. So what we're going to do is type them into the boxes. So in the top box, I'm going to type team. Okay, and notice that the database supplies some other words that other people have typed in. So we see teamwork, we see team, we see team buildings, teamwork in the workplace. Those are not subject headings, they're just other things. When people have typed in team, there are other ways that people have finished that. But one way to search for any ending of a character string is with the asterisk or the truncation symbol. So it's the shift star character on the 8. So if we add that to our word that we're to our trunk, it will look for any variant endings or no variant endings. So we would find team, singular, teams, plural, and the word teamwork. Next, we'll add our second. You'll notice I can't type and talk at the same time, but our second phrase, in this case, that's resist to change, is a phrase that's used a lot, used more often these days as this is becoming studied. All right? So we type resistance to change, and we're going to go ahead and click on search. And our databases, you see under our 3 search boxes, our search results, we have 1 to 40 of 166 articles, right? They are arranged in relevance order. You can change the order to date newest and put them in reverse chronological order if you would like, and there's other ways that you can arrange them. I would just tell you that Business Source Complete is a database from EBSCOhost. And EBSCOhost has a fairly good algorithm, at least in my relevance algorithm, at least in my opinion. It's one of the better ones on most of our databases. So what they tend to do is they tend to weight items that are from journal articles or from or that are newer closer to the top of the list. So let's see. Whenever you do a search, what you want to do is you want to kind of scroll through the first several pages of your results, or at least the first page, and kind of see what the database, how it's, if the articles that it's finding, are they meeting your needs? So if you want to see an article, you can click on the title to see more about it. Okay? And this will show you the record, and this is actually what it's searching. So it's searching words in the title, words in the subject terms, and words in the abstract of the article. So this particular article talks about using team-based learning to teach change. So this article may not give you foundational information on resistance to change in teams, but it might be an article that you might want to read when you start talking about solutions to your issue, to this issue particularly. So keep other uses in mind. So this particular article is from the American Journal of Management, and it's 3 pages long. You can see that in the source list here. Okay. This particular article, let's go back to the result list. Well, actually, I'm going to show you something while we're here. And that is the Tools menu over here. So see this under Tools on the right-hand side. Do you see the Cite button? If you click that, what it will do is open the citation formats, the major citation formats. So here's APA. So what you could do is copy this out and paste it into a Word document. However, you do need to pay special attention because while the citations are generally, the elements are in the right order, they often, you will have to correct the capitalization of the titles and personal names of words in the article titles. So you will need to know how a citation should look, because I can tell you right now this is not exactly correct. The problem is in the article title, Resistance and Futile, and the subtitle, Using Team-Based Learning, etc., only the first, it should be in sentence case, so the first word of the title and any proper nouns should be capitalized. The first word of the title and the subtitle. But it'll at least get you started if you're not familiar with citation. All right? Okay, so we've looked at that. We're going to go back to our result list, so we can either use our browser back, or we can click up here under the search boxes. We can click on result list, and we can go back to our search boxes. All right, to our result list, I mean. So while you're looking through, also notice that under each of the articles, you can see the subjects that are assigned to that article, right? So you might look at those to see if you can find some other keywords or phrases that you might want to use in your search. Okay, so here we have, they use resistance to change as a subject term. Okay, so also on number 4 here, we see teams in the workplace, and that's more what we might be thinking about. And on the menu on the left, under Subject Thesaurus Terms, you can see all of the articles in our search, how many of them have these different subject terms. So that's a good way to start looking at a search or looking for ways to narrow your search, all right? Or look for other words that you may use in your search. Notice, for instance, this personnel management here. We can click on Show More, but Business Source Complete, instead of Human Resource Management, they still use the more archaic term personnel management. So if you wanted to limit your search to any of the articles with just these subject terms, you could click in this box and it would go ahead and create that search. It would add that limit to your search. So for instance, let's do this, teams in the workplace. So if we click on that, it's going to update, okay? And now we see that that article on team-based learning has been eliminated because it doesn't have the subject term teams in the workplace. So we're going to turn it off over here on the left menu. You'll see teams in the workplace and a little box with an X in it, and we're going to turn that off and go back to our original search results. What we also can notice here is that the first article, the oldest article that we have, was published in 1953. Now, your assignment wants you to look at current HRDV topics. So you might want to grab that date slider and move it up. Oh, let me tell you something here. Oh, sorry, I'm going to put that back. I put it back to I got 1963. But while I'm looking at this, I did want to show you this article. I just thought this was interesting. This article, The Impact of Cultural Values on Employee Resistance to Teams Toward a Model of Globalized Self-Managing Work Team Effectiveness. Okay, so this article was published in July of 1997. So you may want to, if you're looking for a historical overview, don't be quite so fast to limit your search to more recent things. But in this case, we're going to go ahead and we're going to we're going to move this up, and we're going to do the last 10 years. So I'm going to do from 2009, if I can get it. There we go. To 2018. You can also just click in that box and type in 2009, and then you might have to hit enter to make it update. Okay, so we're back. So now we have 84 articles. Okay, while we're here, notice I want to also show you that these top 3 are academic journal articles, and actually a whole lot of them are. And then down to number 6, here's a periodical article, okay, and 7 is as well. So I'm not saying that you won't find really great information in magazines and trade publications. And you'll see over here below the date slider, you'll see magazines, you'll see the source types, and you'll see magazines and trade publications. So if your assignment does not call for you, if you're not required to use journal articles, or if you can use some magazines and trade publications, those are really good places to get background information and to add a little flavor, because they're usually shorter articles that are generally talking about current events or the current state of the way things are done in the real world. But if you need to limit to journal articles, you can do that by clicking above the date slider on scholarly peer-reviewed journals, and it will update. And now those 2 limits will stay in your search until you turn them off, or unless you turn them off on the menu on your left. Okay, so now we have 51 articles that we're looking at. And you'll notice these top 2 articles are not full text. Let me scroll down. This third one, Restructuring Teams, A Nightmare Comes to Life, is full text. So you could click on the PDF full text and read the full text of that article online. But if you wanted that first article, what you can do is click on Check Article Linker, and it will go out into our other 199 databases. We have almost 200 or over 200 databases, and it will check to see if the full text is available in one of those databases. So we click on Article Linker, and it pops over here, and it actually now has gone into a database called ABINform ProQuest from ProQuest, and we can click here, and there's the full text PDF of that article. Okay, and notice that this particular database also has a cite feature. Notice here on the menu on the right, there's a little cite button here. Okay, we've actually opened a new window here, so I'm going to go ahead and just close that and go back to our search results. Now, what we can do also is we've got 51 articles. So what we can do is we can, while we're looking at them and looking at reading the abstract, etc., we can go ahead and add them to a folder. So I'm going to pull this up because I want to show you. So if I do this, notice it says folder has items over here, right? So I could go through these and I could pick out the ones that I would like and add them to my folder. Now, there's danger in this. This folder session, and actually these searches, are only available during this browser session. So If you wanted to save them to the EBSCOhost cloud, on the blue navigation bar up at the very top of the database window, you could sign in, and you would create your own EBSCOhost account. It's called My EBSCO account. And then once you sign in, because EBSCO doesn't really know who you are, even though all you did was really, when you typed in your last name and your ID number, you authenticated into our databases. It says, yes, you should be able to access our databases. So when you sign into My EBSCOhost, then you'll have the option of saving articles to folders and actually searches. So do be aware, and that will work, that sign-in will work in any EBSCO database. So we have Business Source Complete, we have Psych Info, we have Academic Search Complete, which is a more multidisciplinary database. So if you're looking for articles on public policy, it's a really great, Academic Search Complete is a really good one to look in, and it's an EBSCOhost database as well. Okay, so I've showed you how to add items to a folder. And what you can do also is you can go to your folder view, and you could select all of these articles, and then you have the option to print the citations, email the citations to yourself, or you could save them to a file. So do be aware that you could do your whole list at once if you didn't want to save it to a folder in My EBSCOhost. So for example, you might want to, if you're at work and you don't want to print out your articles, or your lunch break is over, you might want to go ahead and email the records to yourself, and then you could go into your email and when you get home, and then you have your search results right there. Okay, so I'm going to go back, and I'm going to just suggest also that I'm almost done here. Let me see. That you might also want to think more broadly about your search. So you might want to ask another question. So for example, you might be thinking, okay, I've looked at teams and I've got resistance to change, but now perhaps when you're thinking about it, you might say, all right, so how can personnel departments or human resources departments, how can they help with change when it's against the entire corporate culture? So we can click on clear, and we can do that search. So I'm going to type corporate culture, okay, and change, just the word change, because one of our subject headings that we've seen is organizational change. So we'll just, as well as resistance to change. So we could type change here, and notice over here we have select a field optional. So I'm going to come back and show you that in just a minute, but I wanted to point it out here. So now I could also type in personnel, and I could type personnel management. Whoops. And I do have to spell it correctly, however. Personnel. And if I wanted to, I could say or human resource. And I could put that asterisk to look for the singular or the plural of human resource, human resource. Okay, so I'm going to click on search, and now we have 356 items. And you should kind of scroll through that, say, okay, and notice it's holding our scholarly peer-reviewed journal and our date limit over here. So we could scroll through those and say, okay, what do we think about these? And we might start noticing that we want to, our subject headings. And if you wanted to focus this search, what you can do is change that select a field optional pull-down menu to subject terms. We have 356 now, and when we click on search, now this focuses it back to 169 articles because it has to have the word change in a subject term. Okay? And if you really wanted to focus, you might pull that down and choose corporate culture because it is a subject heading as well that we can see in that first, and click on search. And now we're down to 167, so it didn't take out too many. All right, so that is, oh, now I wanted to show you one more thing. While you're searching, if you decide you want to go back to a previous search, if you click on search history, it will open a pull-down menu of all the searches that you've done. So if you wanted to go back, and the limits that you've applied. So if you wanted to go back to a previous search, all you'd have to do then would be to go find that search, click on View Results, and you can go back to that search. Okay? And then it's a toggle switch. So click on Search History again to close it, so that you can go back and see your results. All right? Okay, so that's my presentation on searching for articles. If there are any questions, either unmute the mic, please, or go ahead and type it in the search box. I'm sorry, in the chat box, not the search box. Okie doke. I'm going to go ahead and turn off this recording, but remember that if you have any questions, notice over here on the right side of our EBSCOhost Business Source Complete database, here's the chat box. Or do be aware, remember you can go back to the library homepage, and if you click here on Webster University, it will take you back to the library homepage.
Marianne?
Yes.
One of the questions we had is when it comes to researching for different types of scholarly articles, are Webster students encouraged just to use this library database? And if they wanted to do other searches outside of the database, what do you think is the promise of that or the pitfalls of that in terms of not using the resources that you just described to us?
That's an excellent question. We suggest that students use Google Scholar rather than using Google, if they need academic journal articles. So use Google Scholar rather than just the plain Google. If you need academic scholarly articles. The pitfalls of using Google Scholar, however, are that the databases are mediated. Somebody's looking at those journals. They're looking and they're saying, okay, this really is a journal. There are in the Google Scholar, to publish an article on Google Scholar, there's a list of criteria that people have to meet to publish on Google Scholar. And just like everything on the web and in our databases as well, you want to question everything. But like on the web, people can fib. So Google Scholar won't necessarily tell you whether it's a peer-reviewed journal, where the database will. Okay, and within Google Scholar, you can set it up to use that article linker feature from Google Scholar into our databases to find the full text. So I would suggest that you do that as well. But these sources that are in our databases are predominantly periodicals, magazines, trade publications, and journals that used to be published in print. and now may have an online component, but they're formulated from those well-known sources. And particularly if you use Google, then you have to make all the determinations about how good what you found is to meet your research needs. Oh, there's another question. Are there additional resources for APA style support? And that's a great question. All right, I'm going to click here under Webster University on this screen, and I'm going to go back here, and I'm glad you asked. Here under you can find it several ways, APA citation support. So under research guides, our list of guides by academic department, we also have some on citation, okay? So here under general multidisciplinary, if you scroll down, there's writing resources, and here's citation guides. And if you click there, you can see that we have a guide for APA style. And from here, you can link to documentation from Webster Writing Center. They have some, we call them tip sheets, cheat sheets. There's also a the Purdue OWL has a really great formatting and how to cite, how to create a citation from Purdue OWL. We also have this short video on APA citation that one of our librarians and one of the staff from the Webster University Writing Center, we put that together. So that's available too, and all of those are on this research guide called APA Style. So if you're at that at the research guides page, if you just search APA citation style and search it, hopefully then here's home on the APA style guide, and that's where we were. Any additional questions? Okay, if you've chosen a broad topic, what's the best way for you to narrow your search? I would suggest that you use a database and then do a broad topic search and then scan through the articles looking for some narrower focus that you want. That if you're starting out with a broad topic and you're not sure where you want to go, this would be the way to do it. So start in the Business Source Complete database, start with a broad topic search, but then start looking at the articles themselves and at that subject thesaurus box and see if there's something that catches your interest. If you're talking, if what you mean is how can you, if your search finds too many articles and it's broad in that way, then start thinking about adding those limits and searching by subject headings, words in subject headings, or add yet another search term and see if you can, think about, see if you can focus it that way. Okay. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and, excuse me one moment, I'm going to turn off the recording.